Oh, you're live. Okay, cool. Seems like we are live. Okay. Hello, Dr. Chris Naunton.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, thank you for coming to my very humble YouTube channel. I've been doing this for like the last, I don't know, in 2021 I started, or 2022, I don't remember. 2022, okay, no, 20, well,
Yeah,
whatever. And at the beginning I was trying to do every week a video about ancient Egypt with my personal discoveries, like let's say,
yeah,
studying and sharing. And then
yeah,
eventually I slowed down a little bit over time. It was too much. Once a week is a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it takes a long time, to study and to be accurate, and that's why we need somebody that have already done that work. Have already studied a lot and can share his knowledge. Thank you for Thank you for coming.
No,
Really
it's my
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
So
Yeah, nice.
before we start, let's make some. I really wanna tell the story of why I came about to invite you. So this is the book that you've wrote, and it's a thick one, and but it's not just thick. It's full of images. I mean, I'm not gonna. And it's the history of Egyptology, and you go through a lot of different, and you had to make quite a selection because, right?
Yeah. It was hard. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
hard. I think in the end we had something like 32 Egyptologists or 32 sections. When I first started writing the book, we had 50 something.
Okay.
So yeah, the problem was the problem for me was that I wanted to write more
Hmm.
in every single case. Um, and the publisher, the idea of it was that the publisher is a publisher of art books mainly, so they're very good at very beautiful books and very beautiful images. And they knew, and I knew, that there were loads of really beautiful archival
Hmm.
drawings. They were really good, actually. When I used to work for the Egypt Exploration Society, I did a lot of scanning of things like paper documents, digitizing documents in the archive. And I remember very early on thinking, if you have a letter, say, and the piece of paper is kind of square, but it's not anymore because it's got a bit
Hmm.
torn and it's a little bit folded, and I kind of like that, you know. And so I thought, okay, so when I scan it, do I scan it and then crop out the tatty bits, or do I keep the tatty bits? So
You
I
you
always kept the
kept.
tatty bits,
Yeah.
and the publisher was the same. They were really good. They really wanted all that. They wanted people to feel like it was
Yeah.
old paper, you know.
And
Anyway,
authentic and authentic.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. I'm already going off on a tangent.
No, it's
But yeah, so
beautiful. Hmm.
they wanted a beautiful book. I wanted a beautiful book too, but I also wanted to write a really interesting and thorough book. Um, but you have to make compromises, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
I ended up not being able to write as much as I would have liked. But to be honest, the book, as you said, the book is already quite big.
Oh, it's perfect. Like,
Um,
look, if you wrote more, maybe people, you have to be, you have to be synthetic. Like, you have to go
yeah,
to what matters at the end, right?
yeah, and these books are a team effort.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
so I wrote the text.
Hmm.
I chose the people. Um, I chose most of the images, but not all of the images.
Hmm.
Actually, we had a picture researcher who had, because we had to do it really. The whole book came out really quickly. So I had a picture
How
researcher
much
called
time it
Sally
took?
Nichols. So I signed the contract in January 2019, and they wanted me to finish in August. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and actually I did. So I didn't, because it was too much.
Okay.
But I finished in December,
Okay.
January, just kind of December. That's
2020.
still really fast. It's
Okay.
really, really fast.
Yeah.
Um,
I Actually,
yeah, to do all the research and everything, it's really quick.
I saw in just came on my mind. I saw you going through the description of l'Egypte in a video online.
Mm-hmm.
But was that how many copies there are of that?
I don't know. I mean, in existence now, probably. I mean, that's the second edition. The one I was looking at is the second edition, which is the biggest one. It's a bigger edition than the first one.
Okay.
Of that, I don't know, but I would imagine 100 copies, 200 copies.
How big?
Maybe
That's super big. But is this in Paris or was in London?
No. This was So by coincidence, this is a long story. Sorry.
Go.
I work for a little charity. As part of what I do, I work for a little charity called the Robert Anderson Trust, and the reason I got involved in that is that the charity provides support to visiting researchers. A lot of them are Egyptology students or Egyptology postdocs. So that's how I got to be involved. And the guy who started the charity, Robert Anderson, was an Egyptologist, and he had a particular interest in the Description de l'Egypte. So he bought for himself, for his personal library, he bought a copy of the second edition. Yeah. So that copy is in the house that he lived in, and that house is now used by the charity to accommodate visiting students.
Okay, where is this place?
It's in London. It's in central London.
But you can't visit. Like you can because you're an Egyptologist, but I can't go there, right, and visit. Like
it's not open to the public.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to come, I can show you.
Oh wow! It's too much.
But it's not open to the public. No.
But I try also online to look for a digital version. I didn't find it. Maybe just I didn't look enough. But
no, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, there is, and I can send you the link.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Great.
So in fact, although it's nice to be able to look through those original volumes, you don't need to. So it's kind of nice
the
that
emotion.
we have it.
Yeah.
No, it's Again, when you talk about that idea of something being authentic, that's the real thing.
I mean, it's 300 years old. No, 200. Wait, it's 200 years old. So,
200 and something.
But it's printed, obviously, right? It's not paint like it's printed.
No, it's
printed,
they're printed, but I mean, they would have been in those days. Fantastically expensive to produce and fantastically expensive to buy. So they're also just very difficult to use because they're really huge, So you need a huge table.
Yeah, but this was not meant to be read like every day, It's just
no. But they were meant to be used, by scholars, and that's why I say, because I use the Description de l'Egypte. I just don't use the printed volumes. I use the online
digital one. Okay.
version.
Yeah, thank you. If you can send me, please, because I don't know why I didn't find it.
It's not easy to. No, I tell you why. It's not easy to find.
Okay.
Okay. It isn't. Yeah, but it is up there.
Okay, so it's not just me. So I wanted to. I hope the people can actually hear our sound good. I hope. I don't know, but because sometimes happens that maybe my microphone is not good or yours. I don't know, but let's. If anybody in the chat can just confirm that it's working, please. But we keep going. So Chris, I really at the beginning I wanted this to be very spontaneous, and because I loved it, but at the same time I thought it's not every day that you can talk with an Egyptologist. So I decided to prepare a few questions for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Because because it's not every day that you can actually, and I wanted to make sure that we actually address a lot of the questions that I personally have.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So let's go for the first. So you, I actually wrote it down, so let's not mess it around. So Zakaria Gonaim found a sealed sarcophagus in the pyramid of Sekemket.
Yeah.
He hoped for his Howard Carter moment. The sarcophagus was opened in front of the international press and in front of President Nasser, but was found empty. a similar episode occurred to you in Dashur. So so at the end, now a lot of like some years have passed now. So what sense do you make of sealed sarcophaguses being found empty?
Well, I don't know the situation with Zachariah Gonem and the Sekhem-Khet pyramid so well, but as you know, the vast majority of Egyptian tombs have been found empty, pretty much. In the case of the situation in Dashur that you mentioned, which I do know pretty well, the truth is we still don't. I don't feel as though we still really quite understand what happened there, because just for anybody who doesn't know the situation, in 2017, the south end of Dashur, and Dashur is a pretty well-known site, and there's been lots of excavations taking place there over many years. It's the site of a number of royal pyramids of the Old Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom. But, you know, people might be surprised to know, even in a place like this, not all parts of the site have been dug. And, you know, there are still new things being found all the time. This was really at the edge of the site. So I'm not sure anybody really thought there was going to be anything in that area.
South, right?
South, yeah, south. Although, actually, having said that, I just did discover after we'd done the work there was a German guy who'd actually done a survey, and he knew that there was some stuff there, hadn't excavated. But anyway, so basically what happened was there was some illegal quarrying going on in the area, so digging, but not for archaeology, digging just for the rocks, and they uncovered what was pretty clearly the base of a pyramid. No actual pyramid, but just the square base of it, some part of the superstructure, but not very much. And in the center of this stone base was there were three pieces of hard stone, three very, very big pieces of hard stone, two quartzite, one quartzite, two granite, kind of embedded into the limestone base. And it was pretty clear from what we know from elsewhere that these were the ceiling pieces, the top pieces of the burial chamber, and that the burial chamber itself was probably going, and this turned out to be true, was probably going to be made itself of hard stone. Like, imagine a giant bathtub of hard stone. So they don't build the burial chamber in this case of lots of little pieces. It's one single piece for the whole thing except the ceiling.
Like the Middle Kingdom.
So the burial goes in there.
Normally
and then
go. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. Go. Sorry.
So and then these other pieces are put on top as the final, the final part in the puzzle, and all those top pieces seem to be completely in place. So if that's right, it looked absolutely like the thing was undisturbed. So what we were hoping is it's going to be intact, right? When it was lifted, and it took 2 days, it took a day and a half to lift one of those stones, enough that we could get in, and it turned out it was not empty, but the stuff was all messed around and it wasn't intact. And we just don't understand it.
So basically,
we still don't understand it. The best explanation we have is that it was actually robbed
by the priest.
But yeah, before it was sealed. The only other thing I think is even possible is that maybe some earthquake or something moved things around, but moved things around like a lot, which would be weird. And then also somehow there were some very, very small gaps in the stones. There were.
Yeah. Maybe
some little creatures got in and destroyed the organic material. But they, if that's the explanation of the whole thing, you would expect there to be objects of metal, for example, precious metal, in a burial like this that would have survived, even if they were badly corroded. Yeah. They would have survived, and there was nothing. So it does look like it was. It does look like it was robbed. In which case, there is no explanation for it except that
they robbed by the priests.
I mean, either they did it before it was sealed, or somehow somebody lifted the lid off and put it back. But that would be so difficult to do. You know, it took in the 21st century. It took a day and a half.
We're gonna tackle this subject later as well.
Okay.
Because I have so much but I saw on a video of yours you were saying that that one of the explanation is actually that was robbed by a corrupted priest or something.
Yeah, and so maybe it's helpful to say, you know, a little bit more about that as well. We know in the case of the tomb of Tutankhamun, for example, that tomb was robbed at least once. Probably twice, and we know we can be pretty sure that happened in the first year after the king was buried. In that case, the people who did the robbing would have had to have known where it was, dug up the staircase, removed the blocking, got in, taken the things they needed, and got out.
Yeah, but and you leave the treasure there?
Well, no. So what they were doing is they were looking for little things that they could easily carry, and then easily sell. So the best things to take are things like, you know, little pieces of jewelry, because, you know, even just one. You know, one ring or one necklace or something from the tomb of Tutankhamun is fantastically valuable.
So fashion.
Yeah.
But did we not find little pieces of these things in the tomb of Tutankhamun?
So they could take everything. There was just too much. There was just way too much. So I think if you imagine a robber going into rob a bank, say, and imagine there's $10 million in the bank. And you've got to get in and out as quickly as you can. You go in, you have one bag, you put that much money in the bag, and then you run off.
So you think the tombs were?
And let's say that's $100,000. That's amazing, right? It's not everything. You didn't take everything, but you've got enough. You know, you've got what you need. And the last thing you want to do is be in there for like an hour, you know, or, you know, carry out. You know, you have to keep going in and out, carrying all this stuff because you'll get caught.
Yeah, but that's the question. So you think there were in and out. There were guards guarding the tombs? Do you think?
There should have been, yeah.
So then it's obvious. But then it's obvious where the entrance is, if there are guards there.
So and of course people know. People know where it is. There are people involved in creating the tombs. There would have been people working on the tombs always, more or less continually. People working on the tombs. There would have been guards. There would have, when there was a funeral, you know, at any time there was a funeral, there would have been a lot of people. Well, maybe not a lot of people, but, you know,
the priests.
People know. Yeah. People know where it is. You know.
Great. This was actually one of the questions. I was about to ask you if Tutankhamun was already robbed, because I read about that before, but
yeah.
Thank you.
There's a fantastic. You should look it up. There's Howard Carter actually found in there a little piece of cloth with some jewels stuffed in it. And what we think is that was dropped by the robbers. So what they were doing was they took a piece of cloth, they put as much as they could, they tied it up, they ran off, but then they had to leave it. And that's what Carter found.
These are the things that I love. These are the things that I love about Egyptology and in general. Look, I have in my in this humble YouTube channel. I had a podcast with Louis de Cordier. He's a Belgian artist, and I know you're gonna go in September in the Fayoum and lead a tour because if anybody like in the audience would like, Chris also leads people in Egypt. So if you wanna check, there is a website online. Come to Egypt with Chris would be a dream. So what I want to say is, so since you are going there, my question is, do you know about the Mataha expedition of 2008 led by this Luis, or you don't know about the Labyrinth of Egypt? So I yeah.
No, so I know not very much, to be
Okay.
honest. No, not very much.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So cool. Well, just to make
And
it
he
very
was
short,
he was looking in Hawara, or he was looking somewhere else.
he was looking in front of the pyramid of Amenemhat III,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
he went there with like GPR. He went there with I mean, all the three non-invasive techniques that archaeologists use, which I never remember the names, magnetometry, things like that, and and they produced a scientific report which claims that there are still underground features down on a. But Flinders Petrie came there and said, no, this is just the foundation, and they came there with these instruments and they detected that underneath that there are still structures. So there are two theories. Like one is Petrie missed that was the foundation, but it was actually the ceiling of the underground part of the labyrinth, or there is an older structure than the labyrinth still there. So I guess it's a mystery.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's an interesting story, but yeah, they had very difficulties with the ministry. So I mean, I don't know. It's quite a story. And actually, I mean, if you don't know much, maybe I will suggest you to like watch. There are some videos online because it will make a great TV show as well, I think.
Well, actually, that is on my list of things to cover in a lecture coming up, because I have to go to the Fayoum.
Wow.
So we'll go to Hawara, and
Wow.
yep, and I already have done a little talk from a previous trip to the Fayoum about Hawara and the Labyrinth. I didn't do very much detail, but I will do a bit more this autumn, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I mean, I don't. Then I think this historic, like in 2008, I did this expedition with the NRAIG, the National Institute of Research. I never remember the names, and so you might want to check that out as well. It's a document I have online. I can show you later if I can send you. Okay, cool. I have because we're also. I have a question about afterlife and mummies.
Yeah.
Allora, I've tried to make sense of the whole belief, and I find it very hard to understand. And so maybe let me tell you what I understood, and maybe you tell me exactly how the whole thing was. So I understood that when somebody in ancient Egypt died, somebody with some money, they get themselves mummified. It took more or less 72 days, and then after that they will be buried wherever, in a pyramid or a mastaba or in a tomb, normal tomb. And then what happens is they will be buried within a coffin, within a sarcophagus, with the depiction of the eyes looking east, but you are supposed to, your soul, your ba is supposed to go west. So this is the first thing I don't understand. And then but the main thing is, why mummifying the bodies if you believe there is a paradise? Because they did the fields of reed, right? So I don't understand. Like, you want to keep the body, but why the ba needs to come back to the body? The mummy will go back live again, or I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
you get it?
Very complicated. It's very, very complicated.
Okay.
So the first thing to think about, I guess, is that over the course of 3,000 years of Egyptian history, things changed, and the kind of rituals and the practices around, what to do with the body in death and what happens to the individual after they die, those ideas change, and so there's no kind of, it's not that there is a definitive way of doing things. What we understand is the result of the survival of evidence from different times and different places, and relating to different people who made different choices. So there are common kind of threads, but there's no one set sort of way of looking at it or one way of doing things. The other thing to bear in mind is that a lot of the different sort of myths, if you like, about what happens to a person, there are lots of them, and they don't necessarily all make sense together. And again, that's probably the result of things changing over time, or people having different beliefs according to where they come from, or also, the things are different for the king and for everybody else as well. So the basic sort of principle of mummification is that the Egyptians believed from very early on, it seems, that in order for the individual to survive into the next life, their body needs to stay intact. So mummification was a way of ensuring that. And initially, we think we sort of guessed that they just observed that if you leave a body in the desert, in the dry desert, then it sort of gets preserved. Whereas if you just dump it somewhere, it will get eaten or whatever. But they eventually they sort of start to realize that if you do this, so for example, if you remove certain internal organs which contain nasty things that can start to eat the body away, if you remove those, then you can stop the decay. And if you can purify the body and dry it out, then that really helps too. And they started to do that with natron salts. And if you can then embalm it, if you can kind of seal it, that also really helps too. And then wrapping in bandages, blah blah blah. So the idea is that your body is then sort of supposed to be protected and stay intact in the tomb, but your spirit leaves the body, and then there are several different sort of aspects of the spirit. So the bar is depicted as a bird, and is able to sort of fly off, and go around and visit people and whatever, and then come back into the tomb. The Ka spirit is the sort of double, like a shadow sort of version of the bar looks like a bird. The Ka looks like the person. Sometimes with a Ka symbol on the head, in art anyway. And there are various other different aspects of the kind of spirit as well. The Arch is another sort of fairly well-known one. Mm-hmm. But there's no hard fast rules about what exactly happens with these things. And then to add to this, there's this idea that the king, the best known sort of myth of this, is that the king makes a journey through the night and then is reborn into the new day and reborn into the next life. And borrowing ideas from elsewhere, what happens to anybody in the next life is that they live in a kind of eternal paradise that looks like our world, the Egyptians' world, but a kind of idyllic version of it. So if you were thinking of a sort of a kind of, if you were trying to put together a kind of definitive version, you'd probably borrow things from all these different places and say this is what happens. But if you then look at say the way things are shown on this tomb wall or this tomb wall, or what happened in this to this person or in this tomb, and you talked about things like the body being placed inside coffins, inside a sarcophagus, and all that sort of stuff. The tomb of Tutankhamun is like because it's intact more or less. That gives us a kind of complete idea of what they were trying to do, but it's unique, possibly unique to that king and that time. And he was the king, so did everybody else have this? Well, to some extent, yes. But did everyone have it? No. And, did they all design their coffins in the same way? No. And that goes for any sort of funerary equipment. So, tombs in that period, tombs of kings and tombs of other people, they're all decorated. But the decoration is never the same in two places. And the designs on the coffin are never the same. At this point, it was the practice to bury people with a roll of papyrus as well, with so-called Book of the Dead spells on them. No two people chose the same text. So when we talk about the Book of the Dead, it's not like a book. It's a collection of short texts, and you might have 20 of those texts on your papyrus, but which ones you have out of hundreds? There are hundreds of them altogether. So how do you choose 20 or whatever it is? we don't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Did the individual choose? Did the priest choose for them, or what? We just don't know. But it's never. Do you see what I mean? It's never the same.
So let's not take it too seriously then, because we can't really.
Yeah, you can drive yourself crazy if you try and the other thing, like I say, is that these things don't all add up. So, so in the story of what happens to the king, one part of the king gets reborn into the sort of eternity. Another part in that part of the king goes into the sky and sort of becomes the sun and is born into the new day. Another part of the king goes back into the underworld and joins all the other kings who have died. And then another part of the king becomes the new king. So, and if you try and think to yourself, but how does this all work?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And and I think we have our brains these days. We like rules, and we like
logic,
things to make sense, and logic, exactly. And we try and apply logic to this stuff.
Okay.
So we find ourselves saying, but how can it be this and this? It doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't to us.
yeah. But do you think it's we are very accurate about translating those texts, or it's not logic because it's inherently not logic? Like it's not it's because of we translated not accurately, or?
Well, so there comes a point where it can't make any sense, because this stuff has come from the imagination of the priests or whatever. And actually what we've got for say the myth of what happens to the king after he dies, what we've got are the decoration on the walls of the tombs of kings first and foremost. And those don't represent all the thinking. It's a bit like if you take the Bible as an example. We now have a definitive Bible with definitive text, and if you read the English version, might be translated slightly differently here and there, but there's a set version. But if you look at, say, the Gospels, the story of Jesus' life, they vary from one to another, and you think, well, okay, so did Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did they write these things, or actually is what we've got? We've got is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and much later. And it's the same with these Amduat things. And when it's so mad and bizarre, the king is the sun on a boat going through the underworld in the night with a load of demons, beasties, and gods. What does that mean? Who knows?
Yeah, but I think there is a level of intelligence that it transcends words, and it's just images, and whatever those transmit and communicate to you, like art. I think, just by saying sun, boat, underworld, dark shadows, and just by saying these words, I start to have images in my mind, and I think. That might be it's already a communication. Like the images that I create in my mind just by your words are already a communication, and I think they probably lived in that state of without the logic, without having to be logic. But they were probably logical people, because they also lived in the reality not that we live, but. They also had wars, and they had to feed themselves with bread, and so they should for sure they had a logical part of thinking, I think, but not that realm.
They did, of course. Yeah, in the aspects of life that you can apply logic to, you're right. The military or buildings or something.
Yeah, mathematics. They were very great pyramids.
But when it comes to what happens after you die. Yeah. No one can know that, So in that case, your imagination can go crazy.
Yeah. Look, it's we still have some good time. So I actually have a question, and this is from a friend of mine. I asked him, hey, if you were to talk with Chris, what would you ask him? So let's see. And it's a good question. It's a nice question. But let's. I want to get into the same question. I'm gonna get my own question. So all right, let's just do it. And
Yeah.
so ancient Egypt and its mysteries are frequently featured in movies, books, and TV shows. Often often with for dramatic effect rather than historical accuracy.
Yeah.
This can lead to a distorted perception of ancient Egyptian history and mythology over time. Do you find it more interesting to have constant representations of ancient Egypt, even if they are not accurate, or would you rather have like fewer accurate portrayals? And if you were to choose, if you were to pitch a movie to Hollywood, what would the storyline be?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. So for me, I mean, I don't really watch these things for my own enjoyment, you know. So what has there been recently? There's been the Gods of Egypt. There was something like that, and
Moonlight, something. There was a series on Netflix.
I don't really watch this stuff, but then that's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm in my free time, I watch the football, and I like listening to music, and I like true crime documentaries, or you know, that kind of stuff. I'm not interested, say, in the Marvel movies. I've got nothing against them, but I don't watch them. And it seems to me that, you know, Egypt is just. I can see that Egypt is it's really, really visual. It's really rich, and it's kind of really, it's like supernatural, isn't it? It's, you know, you've got lots of gods with animal heads and things. So if you're looking for a kind of you know, it's like a supernatural world to set a movie in, or to base a movie on, then Egypt is great for that. And I, you know, we people like me need people to be interested in our subjects. You know, we're not doing brain surgery or, you know, developing weapons or something. So, you know, people like me can only have a job. We can only earn a living if people are interested in what we do. And if people get hooked in by a movie, that's fine for me. You know, I always feel like, so the fact that they're inaccurate, let's say, doesn't really worry me that much, because you know, anybody who thinks that a Hollywood movie is a good a good sort of basis for understanding an ancient culture, you know, there's nothing we can do about those people, you know. And anybody who watches it and thinks, oh wow, that's really interesting, I wonder if it's true, I'll read up about it. Yeah. They'll pretty quickly find that, you know, oh, I see, no, so it wasn't really like that, you know. So that's fine. And
but still,
I you know, even in my own talks, when I give my own talks, I've just done one, for example, where I was talking about a really interesting theory, but it is just a theory, and I'm not even really saying that I think the theory is right. It's just a really interesting theory. I feel a little bit nervous that a lot of people have watched it and thought that it's my theory and it's what I think, and it's not. But I kind of also feel like this is fine, and what I always try to do with my own stuff, if I get the time, is to produce a page on my website of notes where people can read up themselves. And what I want people to do is to think about this sort of stuff. So if they watch a Hollywood movie about Egypt, you know, it's great if they're just thinking about it, but you know, like I say, if people want to watch a movie and then think that that's all they need to know, okay, you know, I'd say that's not right. But I think most people, if they, you know, most people realize that, you know, it's probably not 100% accurate, and if they want to know more, then they'll find out. And I feel the same almost about my own stuff. You might think one of my lectures doesn't suffer from the same thing, but I think no, you the audience, you've got to read up. And what I want people to know is I want them to understand what the evidence is. So I always try really hard in my talks, say, to not just to say you know,
This is the
Amenhotep
true.
III celebrated Hebsed Festival in year 30. I want to be able to show, you know, this is how we know it.
Hmm.
There are these scenes. It's dated year 30, and here he
Yeah,
is
you're a
celebrating it.
professional. You're a professional. You're a
Yeah,
pro.
but in the end, you know, I almost want to take myself out of it. You know, I
Yeah.
just want to show people. I want to sort of say, look, here it is.
Hmm.
This is what you need to read.
Hmm.
Up to you.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
at some point you're gonna, at some point, I think at some point, maybe not now in your career, maybe it's not now, but in the future, maybe you wanna stand for something. I don't know, like maybe you do already. You probably do, but
I think the thing with
like if you believe that the mother of Tutankhamun is buried there, just go for it. I don't know.
no, do you know? I don't know if I'm unusual in this, or if this is not the right approach.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
the thing with archaeology is that there's so much that we don't know,
Hmm.
and I feel as though we just have to be honest with ourselves
Hmm.
about that. You know, so we can try to tell a story, and
Hmm.
there's no problem with that. But we have to be honest when the evidence runs out, and we
Hmm.
just don't know.
Hmm.
So you know, a really good example of something like this is how the pyramids were built.
We're gonna
We
talk
don't
to.
know, and we can't know. And I don't. That doesn't bother me at all.
Hmm. Yeah, I get
You know,
it.
I don't mind. I'm quite happy with that. But I know there's a lot of people out there who can't let it go.
Yeah, I
You
get
know,
it.
and have to know
Yeah.
how did they do it. Ah, you know, I don't. I quite. This might sound mad. I
Yeah.
don't really care.
Wait.
If we found out, if there was a way of finding out, that would be interesting. But I feel like I've got enough to interest me.
Yes, I get it.
What we do know, you
Hmm.
know, and I can imagine. I have great fun imagining what it must have been like in ancient Egypt. But I'm aware that I'm just imagining. You know,
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. I mean, you. That's why I was trying to say to you at the beginning, maybe in the backstage, was that if you were to actually talk with somebody in the realm of the alternative, whatever, like with this approach, this is I like this approach. I like this approach. I like saying, look, I mean, don't take it too seriously. Come on, like it's.
Yeah. No, so I'm gonna. I don't mean this to be a plug, but I'm going to be doing a talk. My next talk is on the pyramids, and
Oh, wow.
it's
Which
going to be
pyramids?
called Pyramid Myth Busting.
Ah,
And
great.
what I want to do is is just to just to show the evidence for what we know.
Great.
Because so much of the time I hear from people, oh, there's, you know, so a good example is, oh, no bones have ever been found in a pyramid.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how
they
do you know
did.
they're tombs?
They did.
Well, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but they did.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
and the thing is that it's not very well known.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, you have
Yeah.
to do your reading
Yeah.
and blah blah blah. And the evidence is not very much. You know, it's not like a mummy of the king.
Yeah.
You know, but there's, you know, it's not true to say there's nothing.
Hmm.
And I just want to do this, but as part of this talk, I am gonna talk about the kind of phenomenon that people, and actually, funnily enough, I was just reading about this in the context of British prehistory. I know I'm not an expert in Stonehenge and that sort of thing, but it's very interesting that stone circles and Stonehenge have attracted the same kind of pseudo archaeology.
Hmm.
And people tend to assume that, you know, if I say, you know, the pyramids are fourth dynasty tombs, I'm protecting
Yeah.
secret. Or somebody
Yeah,
said to me a little while ago, you know, your whole life's work will come crashing down if it turns out they're older. No, it won't.
No, it won't.
No, it won't.
Yeah,
You know,
no, Chris, it's
my life is, you know, I play the guitar and I go to football. And, you know, if it turns out the pyramids are 20,000 years old, I'll still go with the football. You know?
Okay, but I actually wanted to ask you wanted to be part of the Radiohead, but is that a real thing or
Oh yeah.
is that a real thing?
No.
Okay. Okay, like me. I wanted to. Okay.
I still am a huge fan of Radiohead.
Okay. Well, who wouldn't be if I was English and if I was 20 in in the 90s.
I was in a band with a guy, a very good friend of mine still, who went to the same school as Radiohead.
Okay,
but they were, they were older. And,
okay.
but he lived in around Oxford, and he would see them.
Actually, where are you from? Actually,
from London, from just outside.
I lived in London for 3 years.
Oh, really? When was that?
In my land, 2016 to 2015 to 2018. So yeah.
Where did you live?
In my land. So well, I moved.
Okay.
I moved Hackney, like that area. Like,
yeah. Okay.
I did it was very tough for me. As an architect, it's life in a city. I live in the middle of nowhere now.
Whereabouts?
In Portugal, on the coast.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like it's completely changing.
Yeah.
But I remember I was spending a lot of free time in the British Museum. I mean, because this is your job, but this is for me. It's a hobby. So for me, this is how I. And that's the thing that really makes London like super interesting to me. It's the museums, and so
but
at
we're
some
very
point,
lucky.
Yeah,
we are amazingly lucky.
But at some point,
theatre and cinema, and
but at some point, I needed to see
art galleries, exhibitions. Yeah,
you're right. I remember I never saw any ancient Egyptian exhibition in the British Museum. No, I never saw any. But whatever.
So maybe when you were there, I'm trying to think what was on in those years. Maybe there wasn't. No,
I didn't miss
the
anything.
one. God, I'm trying to think. Hang on.
Egypt faiths after the pharaohs.
I think this might have been when you were there.
I missed it.
No, but it might not have been. I'm sort of testing.
I wish.
Sorry, we're right off topic here. 2002, maybe it was before you were there. 2015.
Because they don't do ancient Egyptian exhibitions very often, do they?
Not every year. No, not every year. So in the last 25 years, we've had Cleopatra, Book of the Dead, Sunken Cities, Faith After the Pharaohs, and then they sometimes do things like they did an exhibition on Hadrian, I think, and obviously that's partly Egypt, but it's largely other places. So
okay, so they didn't. Okay, so it's not very often that they do it. Okay.
No. I mean, they might have. They'll have several exhibitions every year, but they're not necessarily Egypt because, of course, the British Museum covers lots of different.
Since we are talking about exhibitions, I have an answer. I have a question about Belzoni. Please, Allora, please help me understand. Was he hired by Sir Henry Salt, and therefore he was an employee, or was he an independent freelancer guy? And that's so the question.
He did both. He did both, I think. Yeah, he was hired by Salt. But he did both. So when he removed the bust of the younger Memnon, which was his first work, that was work for Henry Salt. But his work in the Valley of the Kings, I think, was his own work. I'd need to look to check to see all the various different things, but both.
Okay.
Both.
But so I don't remember when you go to the British Museum, that statue, the name, it's the collection of Henry Salt, obviously, right? Because it's not Belzoni.
So Salt had 2 collections, or was it 3?
Okay.
2 or 3. Salt's original intention was that his collection would go to the British Museum, but they were going to buy it. The idea was that they would buy it from him, and so a lot of the things that are in the British Museum are from Salt's collection, but a lot of things from Salt's collection went elsewhere as well. So in fact, the biggest, oldest collections in Europe are in London at the British Museum, in Paris in the Louvre,
in Turin,
and in in Italy, in
Turkey.
Turin, and in Florence. And most of, or the biggest, oldest things in all those collections come from either Salt or Bernardino Drovetti, who was Italian but working for the French government as the French counterpart to Salt. So the two of them were essentially Britain and France in Egypt in those years, and both of them gathered together huge collections, and those collections were sold to those museums basically. But not necessarily. The split is not as you'd think. So it's not like all of Salt's things went to London, all of Drovetti's things went to Paris and Italy. It's not like that. It's much more mixed up. Yeah.
So Belzoni, So Belzoni was doing a little bit of both, and so he can.
Yeah. And sorry. I just wanted to add as well that so it's also not the case that say he was working for Salt and he was only working for Salt at that time, and then he was working on his own and he was only working for himself. A lot of the time, let's say Belzoni goes to Karnak to excavate, somebody like Salt or another person like that might say, "Oh, can you get me a statue?" And so Belzoni will end up doing bits and pieces for lots of different people. That was quite common.
But I don't remember that statue in specific. When you go to the British Museum, is under the Salt collection, obviously, right? It's not under Belzoni name.
That's Salt. Yeah, that was Salt. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, we just have like 10 minutes to go, so I think there are so many questions, but I know we tackled a little bit the topic of the pyramid, but I have other questions. Obviously, not just the pyramids. I have a question about women, if the Egypt was a matriarchal society, or like
not really.
No,
I think more patriarchal.
Yeah, but because of
there are examples of. You can make Egypt seem quite progressive, I think, if you want to. So, for example, there are examples of female pharaohs. You will know this very well. Hatshepsut, probably Nefertiti.
Oh no! Oh no! Chris is gone. Let me see. Chris Naunton. Okay, you're back.
Yeah, I lost you.
Cool.
So I was just saying there are female pharaohs, Hatshepsut, probably Nefertiti, Cleopatra. There were other very prominent women around, great royal wives of Pharaoh. Nefertiti included Queen T. There are one or two other female pharaohs around.
But Hatshepsut needed. But Hatshepsut needed to be portrayed as a man, right? To be considered, right? Or?
Yeah, she's a very interesting case. Yeah, you're right in that she was in some cases depicted with sort of male attributes.
Yeah.
But I think that's to do with the sort of the way that specifically the pharaoh. Had to appear, because there are these very rigid conventions about what pharaoh had to look like.
But in the everyday people, women, like, because I can see, the idea I have in my mind is that they were quite equal. Like, the guy was just on the fields working on the fields, and the woman was probably home taking care of the kids. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't think there was a superpower of men, or like I don't think there was. I don't imagine Egypt having this unbalance in the everyday people. I mean, not in the pharaohs, maybe. No.
Yes, maybe that's right. Yeah, maybe that's right in some sense. And we know that the law gave certain protections to women, and we have a certain amount of understanding about the law and what. All the usual things that that can go wrong. People stealing, murdering, adultery, all these things, and women were given certain protections in that. So they had rights. My PhD is a study of people and their relationships and their titles as well. and it women held there's almost no titles for women. There's a small number of sort of priestesses or what we call chantresses or singers, temple singers. Otherwise, the title that women are given over and over and over again is mistress of the house. And I think it just depends. It just depends. You can look at Egypt as being progressive, and you can call to you can bring into the argument lots of
you can build
lots of things that suggest that it was progressive. But I think it was a pretty male-dominated society.
Okay. So, because
right or wrong,
you can build whatever story you want to build if you pick a little things here and there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that it would be very much easier to be a woman in ancient Egypt than
and it is now.
Than it is now, or that it is in other patriarchies around the world in various different times in history.
This was just a curious question because it's something that I heard before, and that was the women. Like, it's not because this is not a political question. I don't care. Like, it's not. It's just curiosity.
Sure.
Look, let's finish. Maybe we still have 5 minutes, so let's tackle the most difficult questions.
It's not a hard cut-off for me. So, like, if
you need to go.
No, I don't. No, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't. So
Okay.
Let's do a couple more questions, and we'll see how we.
Look, the Great Pyramid. We have to talk about this. I know that you already. We already talked about a little bit about the pyramids and the mystery. Let's not take it too seriously, and we won't. I promise. We won't take it too seriously. But Chris, 28 years, 2.2 million blocks of stones, 5 minutes per stone, sheep, quarries. Like, come on, how can we, how? How can...
I think the thing that we are missing, one of the things that we're missing, is that it's very difficult for us to understand how a whole country could devote itself to one building project like this. And one building project that is basically focused on one man. Our prime minister in this country is pretty popular at the moment. But if he said, okay, we're going to take money away from the National Health Service, and we're going to take money away from teachers, and we're going to reduce defence spending, what we're going to put all of the money into, and we're going to hire thousands of people, is to build me a tomb. With a big picture of my face on it, well, that's what we're going to do. Of course, everybody would go, who do you think you are? Whereas in ancient Egypt, the king, I think people were really, there probably were people who also had the same idea and rolled their eyes and were like, well, he's just a bloke. But there was a lot of people out there that really, I think, bought into the idea that he was a god, and this is how it works. He really is a god. I think if you believe in all the gods, and it's not a choice. I think it's another thing that's maybe difficult for us to understand. In our society, you can choose to be Christian if you want and go to church, or not, or you can choose if you want to convert to Islam, or you can be, or Judaism, or you can be Buddhist if you want, or not. In Egypt, there's no choice. Everyone is bought into that, and so you it's not even, like I say, if you're religious, if you believe in God now, you can choose to do that or not. You don't choose to believe in the gods in ancient Egypt. That's what it is. It's like saying do you believe the earth is round? Yeah, of course, everyone knows that, right? The earth's not flat. We know this, and I can say that because that's how our mentality is. And if you believe in all those things, and you believe the king is a god, and you believe that in order for the world to carry on, working properly, then you've got to build a massive tomb to allow the king to go up to the sky. Then fine, that seems like a great idea. Seems like a great thing to do. And sure, it takes all this time, and all these people and all these resources, but we've got to do it. got to do it.
It's like the Apollo 11.
We can't just put the king in in the ground.
You will compare it with the Apollo missions, right? To beat the Russian, we gotta do it. That's
that is quite a good comparison. Yeah, that is a good comparison. Yeah,
but still,
it might seem mad. Like, go to the moon?
Yeah. I believe in the moon landing.
Yeah,
I choose to believe. We are free to believe. No, cool. So I mean, I really don't expect you to have obviously for me, like, to have a block of limestone quarry shaped ship placed and finished in under 5 minutes. It's obviously, like, it's mathematically doesn't work, and I don't expect you to just tell me because of this and I don't expect you to tell me. I mean, if you have an answer, but I don't know.
No, look, I don't. I mean, we're never going to find the answer, to this. And I'm sure that there will be people that have sort of made estimates, like, this is how long it takes to get the block out of the quarry, this is how long it takes to cut it to size, this is how long it takes to move it, this is how, all these things, and done the multiplication, and it comes out, the period of time is way too long, or the size of the blocks is way too big. And I'm sure that there are other people who have done the same calculations and gone, no, it's fine, it's possible.
Okay.
And I can only tell you, and again, this is not my skills, right? This is not, and this is what I have to say to all the people, and I get this all the time, honestly. Maybe not every single week, but I mean, there is a constant supply of people getting in touch to say, I've got a theory about how the pyramids are built, and I always have to say, well, these days I just say, I'm really sorry, I don't do this. Honestly, because I can't help. I just can't help. I don't know anything about cutting stone. I don't know anything about moving blocks. I read hieroglyphs. It's a completely different skill set. But in any case, even if I knew all about that, and we got all the way to the end, and I did all the calculations, and I figured it out, at the end, we're still all going to have to say, we still don't know. We don't know what they did. We just don't. But I can tell you that, for this program that I made earlier this year, this documentary I made earlier this year, we went to watch some guys cutting stone, and it is amazing. I was amazed by what they can do. With
machines.
With just hand tools.
With a saw.
They take a huge piece of stone. They cut little holes. They knock a little hole here, and then they move along a bit, and they do a little hole here, and then they move along a bit, and they do a little hole here, and then they do a little hole here, and then exactly, and then eventually they start to put little, like, wedges in. So you bang the wedge down, and then this guy just got on top of the stone and sort of tapped along it, tap, bang.
Yeah,
it just splits open, and then the next stage is, so then you've got two sort of roughly square chunks of stone, and then the next stage in the process is you've got a rough surface, and they just go chink, 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 and suddenly it's completely smooth. And they did this all, by eye, and you'd think, if I did that, if I just started banging at it, it'd be a mess.
Yeah, sure.
These guys just chink, chink, chink. It was completely smooth, and they did it in minutes. It was honestly like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And you just think, wow, okay, so these guys they've got skills. This is, I think, again, something we don't appreciate. I can't appreciate this because I've never tried to cut stone. I don't get it. It seems hard, and I know that outside of in the street now, if somebody's cutting stone, they have a drill, or a saw. I know that. So how did the Egyptians do it? Well, they had skill.
Whatever that means.
We don't appreciate,
Yeah, but some people take that as we have a lost ancient technology then. So I like your approach because.
So sorry. I mean, you will know very well, Leo, that the answer to this from anybody
from an
in my
architecture.
field. you've got to supply the evidence, you know, and so we don't know how it was done.
Therefore,
but we've got ropes and chisels,
yes,
you know, and images of people doing this.
Yeah.
You know, so how did they do it? Well, probably it was that, you know. And anybody who wants to suggest there's any machinery that we've lost, okay, maybe, but you've got to supply some evidence. You know.
Yeah, they don't have it because it was. That's why it's lost.
Because they didn't have it.
Which is a circle. It's a self-satisfying circle. You know. It's lost.
I should talk about this in my talk. I was watching. Sorry, this is a tangent, but I was watching a documentary about America and Russia in the 1970s, and the American government in the 1970s really wanted the American people to be afraid of Russia. Sorry, the Soviet Union, because they wanted the people to vote for spending money on the military and spending money on nuclear weapons and all these things to defend against the threat from Russia. And the thing is that the truth is that at this time the Soviet Union was in a terrible trouble. It was in decline. Their weapons were terrible. They were old. They were falling apart. And the Americans were spying on the Russians and like sending satellites up and trying to look down and see what the Russians had. And it looked like the Russian military hardware was terrible. It was old and broken and terrible. So some people in the American government commissioned an expert in Russia to try and figure out whether the Russians were actually in a mess or whether they were really powerful. And this guy says, so we've detected that their machinery is all broken and terrible. But do you know what this means? This means the Russians are they've created a new technology that disguises their weapons and makes them look like they're all broken.
Okay, I get it.
So what this means is that their technology is even better than we ever thought it could be. That's the only explanation. And they were serious. They were serious. That this guy was absolutely serious. What this means is the Russians have definitely got amazing technology, no question. It's so good now that we don't know what it is, and that's the same mentality with the pyramid people, right?
Yeah, I get it. It's perfectly. Yeah, I get it. What an answer. The Cold War answer was.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, look, I think, we tackled so many, there are so many other subjects we could tackle, but I don't wanna like take too much of your time, and I think it's very satisfying already our conversation. So
yeah, it was fun.
It was
a fun chat.
Thank you. I got exactly your approach into the mysteries, and this is the approach. It's like, look, I don't take it too seriously. I think that's
I
like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, cool. So I will have a lot of other questions, but I would like to tell to the audience that yes, Chris is a writer, and this is one of his books, and please go check it out. It's okay. And that's the Italian version as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I bought it in Turin. I went to Turin.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, great.
I went there and I saw the book and I was like, okay, cool. And that's
great.
why.
No, I'm really happy.
That's why I know you, because of this book. Not because of the TV shows. Because in Italy, I don't know, but I know this.
So hang on.
Mm-hmm.
I used to work with an Italian mission in Luxor, so.
With Turin?
With Francesco Tiradritti's mission. So I'm just looking for where is it? Oh, here we go. I worked with this this project.
L'Enigma di Harwa.
So I worked in this tomb, and one of my first published articles is actually this. Oops. Sorry.
Tebe durante la 25esima dinastia, 25th dynasty in Thebes.
Yeah. So have you know?
Your first
Italy has a
article.
very important place in my career.
Ah, I get your point. Okay. Well, they're changing the new director now, so you can always apply to the museum.
In Turin. Is that right?
Yeah.
I heard it was possible. He's a friend of mine, Christian Greco.
Yeah. They're yeah.
And he's done an amazing job. I know him from working. Cause we were both working in Luxor at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I saw some articles that Zahi Hawass might overtake. I read. Oh no, I'm serious. I read it on Google articles like it's just 1 week ago or something like that.
Christian Greco's done an absolutely incredible job in Turin.
Okay.
Really, absolutely amazing. I mean, if he doesn't want to stay, okay, fine.
No.
It's up to him. But if he, I hope he stays because he's done such a fabulous job. He's a really, really good guy.
Yeah, but probably it's not his. Maybe it's not his choice. Maybe it's just politics. I don't know.
Yeah, one day. Yeah. Anyway, who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Chris, thank you a lot again. And I don't know. Like, really, I mean, I would like to keep a conversation with you.
Well, we can just do it again one day.
Okay. Cool. Maybe we can tackle a specific subject.
A few months or something, and we'll do it again.
Okay. Great. Okay. Cool. It was really, really nice. And next time I come to London, we might go to the Petrie Museum together. Would be really cool.
Sure.
Yeah, it'd be really cool.
Yeah,
Thank you, Chris. I'm gonna end the stream here.